When expanding double brackets, what we're doing is expanding everything inside one bracket with everything inside the other bracket. So if I take this example question here that I have just lifted off the internet, but they're all pretty simple. I'm multiplying everything inside this bracket with everything inside this bracket. Now the first thing we need to think is how many terms are we going to get? Now the number of terms are the number of terms in this bracket multiplied by the number of terms in this bracket. There are 2 terms in this bracket, 2 terms in this bracket. So in total, when we expand double brackets, we're going to get 4 terms. Okay? If you do this and you don't get 4 terms, then you've done it wrong. So first thing I'm going to do is start multiplying these out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross them off as I've done it. So I'm going to multiply my x with that x, and I get x squared. X multiplied by x is x squared. Then I'm going to multiply this x with this 2, and that gives me 2x. Now see, I've completely crossed off that x. It's got 2 lines through it. We're not using that one anymore. Then I'm going to multiply my 5 by this x, so 1 line through the 5. I now have 2 lines through my x. X multiplied by 5 is 5x, and then I multiply my numbers. Multiply my 5 by my 2, 5 multiplied by 2 equals 10, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. What I can then do is simplify it by grouping my x terms. You see I have 2x terms here, 2x and 5x. 2x plus 5x equals 7x. So the answer is x squared plus 7x. Remember, that's my 2x plus 5x, and then my plus 10 at the end. And that's my quadratic equation. And in this quadratic equation, a, which is the term in front of x squared, equals 1. B, which is the term in front of x, equals 7, and c, which is the term in front of c is the term at the end with no x's, sorry, that equals 10. This probably won't come up in the question, but it's important to know when you're looking at a quadratic, what is the a, what is the b, and what is the c. So I'm going to do a few more questions now. I'll just do a load more questions because I think that'll be the easiest way in order to explain this. So I'm going to use a red pen, red, because it turns out that when you start crossing your things out in a black pen, you can't read it. It's a terrible idea. Right, cool. So the next question I'm going to do is this one, which is x plus 5 and x plus 4. Okie dokie. Got my red pen. So we're going to start with x and x. X multiplied by x is x squared. Then I'm going to do x and 4. X multiplied by 4 is 4x. You can see I've crossed out my x here. I'm not going to be using that anymore. Then I'm going to do 5 multiplied by x, which is 5x. Then 5 multiplied by 4, which is 20. And you can tell that we've finished at this point because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. And remember, the number of terms we need in total are the number of terms in this bracket, which is 2, multiplied by the number of terms in this bracket, which is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And also you can see that every single term has got 2 strike-throughs going through it, making them completely crossed out. So we're happy there. Next thing to do is we group the x terms. We have a 4x and a 5x. 4 plus 5 is 9, so that 4x and 5x becomes 9x. X squared plus 9x plus 20, and that is my answer. I'm going to do another one now. Let's find something with a negative number in there. So we have x plus 5 and x minus 2. These are all quite simple because we just got single x terms in there. I'll change that up in a second. So first thing we're going to do is multiply x by x. 1, 2, I cross each of those out once. X multiplied by x is x squared. Then I'm going to multiply by x here, crossing that out. By the 2 on the other side here, I'm multiplying it by minus 2. So x, which is positive, multiplied by minus 2, which is negative, gives me a minus 2x. Then I'm going to multiply my 5 by my remaining x on this side. 5 multiplied by x is 5x, and of course both of those are positive. If there's nothing in front of it, that means it's positive. And then finally I'll multiply by 5 by minus 2, positive multiplied by a negative, so I have a negative. 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. Then I'm going to group my x terms. I've got minus 2 plus 5, that becomes minus 2x plus 5x, which becomes 3x. So my answer is x squared plus 3x minus 10. Now of course this is technically correct, it's the correct answer, but it hasn't been simplified, and I think if you then simplify your sum, it will give you those extra couple of points or extra point when it comes to an exam. Let's pick another one. So this time I'm going to have 3x plus 5, 4x minus 6. So this one's slightly different. It's because we've got some multiples of x in each bracket. Of course we're going to have 2 times here, 2 times here, 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So let's do that. 3x multiplied by 4x. Now we need to do two things here. The first is we are multiplying. So we multiply the 3 by the 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Then we multiply the x. X times x is of course x squared. Then we multiply the 3x by the 6 over here. That's a negative 6. Positive 3x and negative 6, so we have a negative. 3 times 6 is what we need to do. 3 times 6 is 18. This is an x. We've only got one x here, so there's not an x over here, so that just becomes minus 18x. Now what I'm going to do is my 5 and my 4. Now both of these are positive, so it's going to be positive. 5 multiplied by 4 is 20. There's no x term here, but there is an x here, so it's 20x. Now finally what I'm going to do is that plus 5 and negative 6. So we have a positive number and a negative number, so we're going to have negative 5 multiplied by 6 is 30. And like we've done before, we're going to group the x terms, which are these ones here. So the 12x is the same, 12x squared, sorry, is the same, minus 18x plus 20x, so that gives us plus 2x and the minus 30 at the end. And let's just remind ourselves of those a, b, c's of this quadratic equation. So a equals 12 because that is the number in front of the x squared, b equals 2 because that is the number in front of the x, and then the units at the end are c, and that is minus 30. I'm going to do one more question, and this one is again one I took off the internet. 10 minus, oh, let's write an a. I don't want a. No one likes a's. They suck. Right, 10 minus x squared. Bring it down a bit. Okay, so what we have here, this is a double bracket because this 10 minus x squared is exactly the same as 10 minus x multiplied by 10 minus x. It's the kind of thing that you might see in an exam where they try and trick you. But it's pretty simple. Yeah, it just means you're multiplying it by itself. You know, like 4 squared equals 4 times 4. When you've got some shit in a bracket, it's basically that. It's the shit in a bracket multiplied by the shit in the bracket, which is exactly what I have here. And we're going to solve it in exactly the same way. Now, it doesn't matter that the x isn't coming at the start of these brackets. It doesn't make any difference at all. We can do exactly the same as what we have just done. So I'm going to start by doing 10 multiplied by 10, which is 100. Then I'm going to do 10 multiplied by minus x. Of course, we've got a positive 10 and negative x, so that is negative 10 multiplied by x is 10x. Then I'm going to do my negative x here multiplied by positive 10, so there and there, and it's exactly the same. Obviously negative multiplied by positive makes it negative. X times 10 is 10x, and then at the end I've got minus x multiplied by minus x. Obviously, two minuses multiplied together make a positive, so that is positive. Let's just cross those off so we don't confuse ourselves. And x multiplied by x is x squared, and is exactly how we've done before. We will group all our x terms, so we go from the 4 terms that we initially calculate, reduce that to the 3 terms because we've got the x terms in there. So we get 100, we've got minus 10x, another minus 10x, so that becomes minus 20x plus x squared. And of course you can rearrange that if you really want to make it more quadratic-y looking, and you can write x squared minus 20x plus, because obviously this is positive because it would have a negative sign in front of it if it wasn't, plus 100. And just remind ourselves again, a equals 1 because there are no numbers in front of our x squared, b equals minus 20, and c equals 100. So that was expanding double brackets.